Hello, my name is Kinga Maroszek and I'm an English teacher. Welcome in another week. So today we'll talk about relative clauses, which are quite easy, I guess, but it's good to know how to use them properly in English. So, what is a relative clause? Firstly, we can use relative clauses to join two English sentences or to give more information about something. For example, I bought a new car. It is very fast. We can connect these two sentences into one using that here. I bought a new car that is very fast, or which is very fast. She lives in New York. She likes living in New York, so she lives in New York, which she likes, right? And we can divide relative clauses into defining and non-defining ones. So, defining relative clause tells which noun we are talking about. I like the woman who lives next door. So if I don't say who lives next door, then we don't know which woman I mean, yeah? And a non-defining relative clause gives us extra information about something. We don't need this information to understand the sentence. For example, I live in London, which has some fantastic parks. Everybody knows where London is, so which has some fantastic parks is extra information. So let's focus on defining relative clauses firstly. The relative pronoun is the subject. So first, let's consider when the relative pronoun is the subject of a defining relative clause. We can use who, which, or that. We use who for people and which for things. And we can use that for people or things, so for both. The relative clause can come after the subject or the object of the sentence. We can't drop the relative pronoun. For example, a clause after the object of the sentence, I'm looking for a secretary who, or that, can use a computer well. She has a son who, or that, is a doctor. We bought a house which, or that, is 200 years old. I sent a letter which, or that, arrived 3 weeks later. More examples in which clause after the subject of the sentence. The people who or that live on the island are very friendly. The man who or that found is my brother. The camera which or that costs £100 is over there. The house which or that belongs to Julie is in London. So the second type is the relative pronoun is the object. So next, let's talk about when the relative pronoun is the object of the clause. In this case, we can drop the relative pronoun if we want to. Again, the clause can come after the subject or the object of the sentence. Here are some examples. We have clause after the object. She loves the chocolate which or that I bought. But we can omit it. We can say she loves the chocolate I bought. Yeah, so we have optional pronouns here. We went to the village, Lucy recommended, or we went to the village which or that Lucy recommended. John met a woman who or that I had been to school with, or without it, John met a woman I had been to school with. The police arrested a man Jill worked with, or the police arrested a man who or that Jill worked with. And the clause after the subject, the bike, which, that, or without anything, the bike I loved was stolen. The university she likes is famous, or which that she likes is famous. The woman who or that my brother loves is from Mexico. The doctor who, or that, or anything again, my grandmother likes lives in New York. We will do the exercises later on, and now let's focus on non-defining relative clauses. We don't use that in non-defining relative clauses, so we need to use which if the pronoun refers to a thing, and who if it refers to a person. We can't drop the relative pronoun in this kind of clause, even if the relative pronoun is the subject of the clause. So firstly, we have clause that comes after the subject. My boss, who is very nice, lives in Manchester, and we can't drop a pronoun here as we are giving some more information, yeah? So without it, it won't make much sense here. My sister, who I live with, knows a lot about cars. My bicycle, which I've had for more than 10 years, is falling apart. My mother's house, which I grew up in, is very small. And some examples in which clause comes after the object. Yesterday I called our friend Julie, who lives in New York. The photographer called to the Queen, who looked annoyed. Last week I bought a new computer, which I don't like now. I really love the new Chinese restaurant, which we went to last night. And we can use some prepositions with relative clauses. So if the verb in the relative clause needs a preposition, we put it at the end of the clause. So for example, with listen to. The music is good, Julie listens to the music. The music, which or that Julie listens to, is good. Work with. My brother met a woman. I used to work with the woman. My brother met a woman who or that I used to work with. Go to. The country is very hot. He went to the country. The country which or that he went to is very hot. Come from. I visited the city. John comes from the city. I visited the city, that which John comes from. Apply for. The job is well paid. She applied for the job. The job which or that she applied for is well paid. And of course you can omit relative pronouns here as they are in the parentheses, so then you can omit them. And whose. Whose is always the subject of the relative clause and can't be left out. It replaces a possessive. It can be used for people and things. The dog is over there. The dog's or its owner lives next door. So the dog whose owner lives next door is over there. The little girl is sad. The little girl's or her doll was lost. So the little girl whose doll was lost is sad. The woman is coming tonight. Her car is a BMW. The woman whose car is a BMW is coming tonight. And the house belongs to me. Its roof is very old. The house whose roof is old belongs to me. And some more phrases with where, when, and why. We can sometimes use these question words instead of relative pronouns and prepositions. I live in a city. I study in the city. I live in the city where I study. Or I live in the city that or which I study in. Or I live in the city in which I study. So here we have a lot of ways how to use them. The bar in Barcelona is still there. I met my wife in that bar. The bar in Barcelona where I met my wife is still there. Or the bar in Barcelona that or which I met my wife in is still there. Or the bar in Barcelona in which I met my wife is still there. And the last one, the summer was long and hot. I graduated from university in the summer. So the summer when I graduated from university was long and hot, or the summer that or which I graduated from university in was was long and hot, or the summer in which I graduated was long and hot. Yeah, and graduated from university should be put here as well. Yeah. Okay, so let's have a look at some sentences in which we should decide which relative pronoun we should use. Who, which, or whose. So here we should be careful. This is the bank, of course, which was robbed yesterday. A boy whose sister is in my class was in the bank at the time. Yes, because we are referring to his sister. The man who robbed the bank had 2 pistols. He wore a mask, which made him look like Mickey Mouse. He came with a friend who waited outside in the car. The woman who gave him the money was young. The bag, which contained the money, was yellow. The people who were in the bank were very frightened. A man whose mobile was ringing did not know what to do. A woman whose daughter was crying tried to calm her. The car which the bank robbers escaped in was orange. The robber, whose mask was obviously too big, didn't drive. The man who drove the car was nervous. He didn't wait at the traffic lights, which were red. A police officer, whose car was parked at the next corner, stopped and arrested them. So let's check. Everything is correct. So maybe let's do one more exercise about relative clauses. Okay, and let's do one more exercise just to choose the correct relative pronoun here. So this is the man who built our house. There is the bridge, which we have to cross. The girl who lives next door is very nice. The bus, which takes you to the station, should be here any minute. And this is the dog, which barks every night. Yeah, we have some more exercises, but I will leave you the link to it in the description, as there are many exercises, and it's up to you if you want to practice more or not. So I hope you enjoyed this short video, this short revision of relative clauses. So stay tuned and wait for another class, which will be tomorrow. See ya!